This video is presented to you by Canadian Gundam. $10 flat rate shipping from coast to Canadian coast. Now also shipping to the United States.
Hey guys, it's 101R Smith, also known as Reggie Smith. And today I'm here alongside the Gunpla Network to present you the review of the Gundam Mk-II version 2.0 from the series Zeta Gundam. The box art for the Mk-II version 2.0 is a bit barren for me on a personal level. While the Mk-II itself looks great, it's not really doing anything substantial or any of a trademark move. It's just really more, it's posing in outer space with a stock explosion like a Michael Bay film. While the kit itself looks nice in its side pieces with it painted up, the front box, I really don't think there's anything special or anything about it that's really going to stand out in the eyes of a typical Gunpla builder or even a newcomer who's never seen the Mk-II before. Nothing too special, nothing too great, nothing too awful. It's just very ho-hum. I'll give the box art a 5. The building process, on the other hand, was phenomenal. Well, I do admit that the box is very blocky and not a lot of pieces go into it. It only feels like a couple pieces slapped together. I'm willing to forgive that a little bit due to its 80s design. However, if you ignored the chest and maybe a little bit of the arms, there is a lot going on with the Mk-II version 2.0 that it was probably brand new to a lot of builders before in 2005. This thing has a ton of detail, such as chrome pieces acting as pistons and a vinyl material in some of the wiring in the back leg. I thought it was very innovative and something brand new. And while I do think the building process is a little bit basic in terms of modern day standards, you can see where those standards came from. I feel that the Mk-II version 2.0 did bring a bit something new into the master grade line, and we have all but this kit to think of. We have phenomenal detail that can be painted up if you're really good at painting, that's molded into it. Great amount of color separation and just a great amount of engineering and posability here. I will give the building process an 8.5 out of 10. The look of the Mk-II version 2.0 really feels as though Bandai decided to take the perfect grade that came out 4 years prior and to scale it down into master grade form. And I don't mean that with any slight to the perfect grade. The perfect grade from a building standpoint and detail standpoint was phenomenal for its time, and it still, for the most part, holds up. The master grade is no different. This thing looks as if the Mk-II came straight out of the anime into real form. There's maybe a few gripes in terms of detail, like I wish there was actual clear piece piping with the head cameras, but otherwise, I have no complaints. This thing looks phenomenal. It's the perfect shade of white, red, a little darker yellow, and a very navy blue. This thing is the Mk-II come to life. I have no complaints about its looks or any of its aesthetics other than maybe having to put some stickers on the shield. This thing is the best representation of the Gundam Mk-II in 1/100 scale. I give the looks a 9 out of 10. Like with the look, the articulation here is phenomenal. For the most part, hear me out. This thing can pretty much do any pose you want it to, because this thing isn't bogged down with a big giant backpack or some super weapon. This thing can move and articulate as humanoid as possible. This thing can bend, lean, push-ups, slides. My only gripe that hampers the opposability is the fact that there's no variable hips in the Mk-II. It's still using some of the older master grades where it's just kind of a socket where you just put in a polycap in the leg and you put it into a socket. So it does lack some leg maneuverability that is in modern grade master grades, but still it works and you can get all the posing that you want and it moves how you want it to. I will give the posing on the Mk-II a 7.5 out of 10. The accessories, on the other hand, are feeling a bit lacking. Now, it's not because this is missing or that's missing. It's just fairly standard for any Gundam at this point. It's got a beam rifle, it's got a bazooka, it's got a shield. It does have the little headpiece thing that you see in Emma's Mark II, but it's just really barren. However, it does allow you, I think, if I remember correctly, it does allow you to add parts, if you buy it separately, to create the Super Gundam out of the Mark II version 2.0. But again, it's just, there's nothing revolutionary about the accessories. A lot of them are just 2 or 3 pieces slapped together. The most articulated thing out of this thing is probably the bazooka, but still the bazooka just isn't really anything special. The accessories are very dull to me, and unfortunately do hurt the kit a little bit, but it's what came with the Mark II. Gundams were still pretty simple in the 80s, so I'm willing to give it a slight pass, but I'll give the accessories a 6.5 out of 10. There's a lot of fun to be had with the Mark II version 2.0. Besides the fact that you have the successor of the original Granddaddy Gundam, you get a lot of great posing, you get decent amount of accessories, but it even comes with this one cool accessory that I love. It comes with a bit of a hanger setup and a bit of a display base. Here's how it works. You build a stand and it has a bit of a feet launch, so you can act as though the Mark II is about to launch into space. And you have hanger and you come with these little figures that can act as maintenance men in space. And then the cool part about this particular stand is that if you get the Zeta version 2.0, that stand connects with it. So you can almost create a hanger diorama around these 2 Gundams, which really adds a niche effect that allows it to look really cool, especially if you really have a diorama in mind with this. You can go nuts and create almost a Zeta AU hanger, and I do appreciate the fact that Bandai does give you that. As well, the base can act as a typical action base for the Mark II, so I am very happy with this accessory, and I'm happy that Bandai included it. I will give the fun factor an 8 out of 10. My final thoughts on the Gundam Mark II version 2.0 is that I really think Bandai started to get their hands together, put their best minds into it, and I really think that we owe a lot of what we have in the modern day master grades to this thing. While again it does lack the detail and some of the more finer aspects of the master grade line, a lot of what we have today comes from the Mark II version 2.0. We got better color separation, we have accurate proportions, brightly and prominent colors, posability, finer details that you really are just starting to see coming back to the master grade line in recent years. A lot of it comes and deviates from this kit, and while the look doesn't really have a lot to add in terms of details, if you can paint this thing up and add some pre-shading, this thing, while it looks good out of box, will look amazing painted up. And again, I feel while the accessories are barren, the Mark II really is the definitive Mark II, unless Bandai can come up with a real great type for our 3.0, but I don't see that happening for years to come. If you're a big Zeta Gundam fan and you want to have the AU on your team, this is it. It will match up perfectly with the Zeta, the Hyaku Shiki, and even the double Zeta Verkal. This thing won't let you down and will be a happy addition to your collection. This is 101 R. Smith, and I will see you later.